Imagine this. You're walking in the middle of the road, deep at night. You carefully tread as the path is surrounded by huge trees and is dimly lit by a few lampposts. Thinking how your day has been, you smell a faint hint of tobacco smoke in the air. Doesn't make sense, you thought to yourself. And you're right, it would not make sense if you are alone. But you're not. This scenario is just one of many stories of a giant monster puffing on a tobacco stick that floods the Philippine folklore. Reports of its description include long hair, a sinister grin, dark skin, and the most common of all, a giant cigar on its hand. If all of these qualities have been met, then you might have just been encountering or being visited by a Kapre. With the popularity of giant creatures roaming the forest like Slenderman or Sirenhead these days, the Philippines has their own unique version of these monsters dating back decades. Popular in the Philippine folklore and mythology, the Kapre is an 8-foot-tall creature who smokes huge rolls of cigar and hides within and atop large trees, particularly the balete, old acacia, mango, or in some cases even bamboo trees. You may call this creature the Filipino version of Bigfoot. It scares away little children who play at night. Reports of Kapre sightings varies from one another. Saying suggests something light, like a Kapre is a playful creature and plays pranks on kids and villagers, or something extreme, like terrorizing livestock and coercing young women into an unsolicited intimate intercourse with it. The Kapre is also known to hex lone travelers into getting lost in the woods. These travelers will be walking in circles across the forest until they acknowledge that they are being hexed, and until they put on their clothes inside out. It's only then the curse is broken. This Kapre's ability is unknown to many though, because other mythological creatures of the Philippines seems to use this ability too, like the tikbalang. The Kapre also possesses different abilities like shape-shifting, the ability to disappear into trees, and enormous strength. The Kapre may be one of the simplest creatures of the Philippine folklore, but its origins are more complicated than one might think. The term Kapre originated from Kapir, a racist slur used to refer to an individual of Nguni ancestry. The Nguni people are a group of Bantu peoples who primarily speak Nguni languages and currently resides predominantly in the southern Africa. In the form of Kapre, it evolved during the pre-colonial period as an equivalent of Negro. This term connects with the Kapre's rumored origins, which we'll get through later on. In southern Africa, the term Kafir was later used to refer to the Bantu people. This designation came to be considered a pejorative by the mid-20th century. Now that we know that the term Kafir, which evolved into Kapre and finally into Kapre, is a slang used to refer to an individual of southern African origin, let's move on to why this information is relevant to the origin of the giant. The Kapre creature may be accredited to the African-American soldier named David Fagen, thus the term Kapre. He is one of the handful of African-American soldiers who defected to the Filipino Revolutionary Army led by Emilio Aguinaldo during the Filipino-American War of 1899 to 1902. Fagen was born in Tampa, Florida around 1875. Details of his life remain sketchy. His father was a merchant and a widower. For a time, he worked as a laborer for Hall's Phosphate Company. At his early 20s, Fagen enlisted in the 24th Infantry, one of the 4 black regiments of that time that was shipped off of San Francisco, California, to Manila to join the raging Filipino-American War. Fagen was soon in combat against Filipino guerrillas in central Luzon, one of the main islands of the Philippines. Reports indicate that he had constant arguments with his commanding officers and requested to be transferred at least 3 times, which contributed to his growing resentment of the army. On November 17, 1899, Fagen defected to the Filipino Army. Winning the trust of many Filipinos, he took sanctuary in the guerrilla-controlled areas around Mount Arayat in Pampanga province. Fagen served enthusiastically for the next 2 years in Filipino cause. Clashing at and against American troops, white officers were frustrated at their inability to capture Fagen, whose exploits by now had begun to take on legendary proportions both among Filipino and in the US press. Fagen became the object of relentless manhunt. Posters of him in Tagalog and Spanish appeared in Nueva Ecija town, but he continued to elude capture. David Fagen was allegedly killed by a Tagalog hunter in Nueva Ecija, but this claim was never actually confirmed, and reports of sightings of Fagen still continue to arise. To this day, it is still unclear what happened to Fagen after all these incidents. Unlike him, his legends remained in the hearts of Filipinos as passed-on stories and legends. These legends may have been morphed and changed throughout the Filipino decades, but one thing remains: like David Fagen, the Kapre has become a part of Filipino culture and is widely feared. With this information, David being of African American race and a person who is feared and widely hunted in the Philippines, it is easy to think that he is the original Kapre, whose stories are changed throughout the years to embrace the Filipino culture. This is the history of the Kapre. Thank you guys for making it to the end of the video. I am fairly new to this YouTube thing, so I would highly appreciate if you would subscribe and like this video if you liked it. It really helps the channel a lot. Leave your comments and suggestion topics or future videos in the comment section down below. And also, keep the wonder alive. I'll see you soon.